Welcome to the Geeks 31 Days of Horror for Halloween. This is Lil.
And this is Steve.
And tonight we're reviewing Insidious Chapter 3 from 2015. So for those of you who have not been with us before, we will play for you our rating system.
Has a rating system in place that we like to call 0 to 0. If whatever horror movie we're reviewing is terrifying only to the most infantile who get nightmares from PG-13 reboots, it gets a 0. If it's a gorgasm-inducing slaughter party that satiates your most devious and monstrous desires, it gets a hero.
A sequel set before the haunting of the Lambert family that reveals how gifted psychic Elise Rayner reluctantly agrees to use her ability to contact the dead in order to help a teenage girl who has been taught by a dangerous supernatural entity. It's all one run-on sentence.
Wow.
Jeez.
Does it say being taught at the end? Is that what you said?
I guess. Haunting, yes. Taunted?
Taunted?
I don't know.
Okay.
Whatever. She's targeted by this entity.
Yeah.
So, Insidious Chapter 3. I think the last time Stevie said, like, you know, the first one or the second one might be the best one of the series so far, and I'm going to disagree. I think out of the 3 so far, this one's the best. I like this one better than the first 2.
I said that as someone who had only remembered the first movie.
First 2.
So.
Yeah, that's fine. Specs and Tucker here get a lot more screen time. I love those guys. I love Elise. I think Lin Shaye is a amazing psychic little lady here that kicks some butt. I like the story here. I like that again, dealing with grief, right? Like all these. And it's a good story, kind of like that. If grief sets in, it's how you let, these entities in, right? And like you see that, and maybe it's not an entity, but it's a good metaphor for that. Like when you're letting grief take over your life, you kind of become someone else, and it's not who you really are. And we see that here with this family who, lost their mom. And I think it was a really good movie. I give the movie, it's not a hero, but I give it a high sidekick. I really, because I think there's some good things. The reason why it's not a hero, again, because it's not scary. It's not scary. I enjoy the story, it's just not scary. And, this the PG-13 horror that, these things make a boatload of money. Like, we'll talk about when we get to the 5th one. Like, holy cow, how much money that movie made compared to its budget. And that's what these movies do. These movies keep big studios afloat to put money toward bigger blockbusters. It's the horror genre, but it's a high sidekick. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story. I thought everybody who was in it acted well. It was very believable. So, Steve.
Although I second that. This is much better than the first 2, I think. It also ties in to the first 2 still, Yeah. There's those lasting kind of threads. It explores a little bit more of Elise's backstory. This also is kind of the, I guess you would call it the origins of that trio. And, you're right. I think Specs and Tucker are the best thing about the Insidious franchise. And I think that's...
Oh my God, I love these guys.
That's true throughout all the movies. Specs and Tucker are just the best thing about this franchise at all.
And Elise, I'm sorry, I have to throw Elise in there because I like Elise.
Well, no, here's the thing. We're talking about this movie. I think in this movie, you're right. I think Elise is pitch perfect in this movie. I think that she has the perfect amount of time because there's a whole nother story going on. And I like this main character we have here. the girl, and I can't remember her name, even though I just watched this movie yesterday. But I like her whole story here, and I think that it's acted well. I like how they get her into Quinn. That's right, Quinn. It should have been easy to remember. I like how they get her into that wheelchair. So it's kind of like the Dalton thing, but flipped a little bit. It's not a coma, but she's still kind of incapacitated and can't really help herself. Also, I think that the entity in this one is actually, I think the jump scares are kind of, they're played up a little bit more in this one than the last ones. But I think most of it for me, because the movie did get me a couple times, but I think it was mostly because it was so quiet, and then those loud parts were so loud that it was like I think the noise scared me more than than anything visually in this movie. So I'm with you on it gets like the highest of sidekicks. The problem is this movie suffers from a few things that are persistent throughout this franchise. One is which I hate how they deal with the entity, how it's all things just get wrapped up and resolved. I think it's all kind of a bullshit thing. They don't know how to end these movies or deal with these beings at all. And this movie suffers just from that same exact thing. It's really bad when it gets to there. And also the little brother was from some other 90s movie that I don't know where he came from. And I'm glad they shoot him out of there towards the end, but holy fucking shit. I could not take another second of that kid. Woof.
Yeah, he wasn't there enough for me to care about.
He brought the movie down almost a whole grade, bro. From his 3 minutes of screen time, it was too much. Unnecessary character that was unnecessarily distracting.
Well, it looks like he was a soap opera child star, so
he jumped off a Home Improvement right onto this show with that haircut. Anyway,
that's true. That is, he did look like was it Zachary T.Y. Bryant.
I digress. Right. But yeah, high sidekick. I think this one is so far the high mark. So
sounds good. Let's get into some spoilers.
Spoilers.
I like here, this is the origin story of the movie, right? Like, so they're pulling a Star Wars here where they're telling these stories out of order. Mm-hmm. We get Elise not wanting to she locks up her basement. We know what's in the basement. It's her reading room. She's not wanting to go down there. She seems kind of defeated. And we find out that her
this is the earliest. This is the earliest point, right? That we go to. Yeah.
I mean, for a full movie, right? Because they do flashbacks.
But that's a flashback. But we're not counting flashbacks.
Right. So, and we are introduced to Quinn, who shows up at her door out of nowhere.
See, because this is the first time I've seen this, so I was expecting, almost like halfway expecting her to it be pranking Elise in some way here, like to start laughing at her or some. I didn't know Quinn could very easily be one of those mean girls from that Rachel McAdams movie. I don't know. Maybe she's here in a dare. I like that she's very genuine and.
I do want to bring up one thing here, Steve, because you're talking about kind of like the tone in the movie and all that kind of stuff. This movie was directed by Lee Whannell. Mm-hmm. The first two were directed by James Wan. This one was directed by Lee Whannell, who wrote and created the characters. So it felt very much in line with everything else. And I wanted to bring that up because as we go on in this series, I want to talk about some changes that we'll end up seeing.
Well, no wonder he gave Specs and Tucker such a
big well, part. I mean,
but you know what? Specs. He was right about it. He was right because Tucker and Specs steal every single scene they're in.
Well, the fact that Tucker is wearing a Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe T-shirt here in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
you know
That
what?
just says everything you need to
This
say.
might
He's
be
got
a
big old-
hero because of that.
I was there, but the ending really kind of fucking
I
yanked me out
know,
of
you
there.
know.
And that kid, that brother, every time. But when I saw Tucker show up, he's always fucking eating something.
Ding.
He's got the mohawk here. He's got the Masters of the Universe shirt, and I'm like, oh man, here
Are we
origins.
best friends?
Yeah, the origin story I didn't even know I needed, but I love these guys and I want more. You know.
Yeah. So, you know, Elise turns her down that she can't help her. She's not wanting to help her because Elise is seeing the Black Bride, and we know where this is going if you've watched the first two movies with the bride.
Do you
coming in.
think if you had never seen the Insidious movies and you started here at Insidious 3, then went to 4, then jumped to 1 and 2, by the time you got to that kill in 1, you'd be like, son of a bitch. Like, they actually killed her. Holy crap.
It would have been, yeah. I mean, I was already kind of shocked that they killed her in 1, you know, like that, because again, you know, I know who Lynn Shay is and, you know, all that kind of stuff, but it's like she had a really like developed character in just that one movie, because we saw what she did for Josh and everything, and kind of gone through this whole thing to take care of him, and then is murdered by his hands, even though he was possessed. So I was shocked by that, but you're right. I think the payoff would have been even bigger if it was done that other way, because we know. And
I just wonder if, like, it almost makes me want to rewatch it in chronological order.
In the right order. Yeah, I agree with that. So, you know, she's seeing her flashes. She's seeing that, you know, that she's saying that you're gonna die by my hands, and she's freaking out about it. Like, she's at a different point from the strength that we saw her in 1 and 2. You know, because even in Death in 2, when she was a ghost, she was very strong and very studious about her position and how she can handle these entities.
Now we watched a lot of these really close together. This is the one, if I'm not mistaken, where in the further, because we're in spoilers now, we're just going to jump a little bit.
Yeah.
In the further here, Elise actually gets into a tussle with the Black Bride.
Yes,
and actually like shoves her away and does
force pushes.
Which was awesome. When she force pushed her, I was like, holy shit. If we start getting into the further superpowers and like we start having like actual fucking telekinesis fights, like I'm fucking ready for that. And then she's like, but she does that move where she stands back. She's like, come on, bitch.
Exactly.
It was so
she gets
awesome
in a stance.
Seeing Lynn Shay, like I was like, and I believe this.
She's running after her. She's chasing.
I'm like, I believe that Lynn Shay is going to beat this.
And you know, and I was getting Nightmare 3 vibes with that, because she had power in the further.
And if you think about it, like what a crazy reveal it would be if you got all this Black Bride stuff, and then you don't find out until movie 4. If you watch these in chronological order, that the Black Bride is actually a guy. Like, what? That would be like Darth Vader level. Like, holy shit.
I mean, and it was a big reveal in the second one, but then, like, again, you're building this up, and I'm like, you built this up wrong. You know, I get it. You didn't know what you had. It was a one-off. You know, James, Wan, and Lee, they worked well together. They built this. It did gangbusters. And like, okay, let's do a second movie. Oh my god, now we got some more lore to delve into, and it's like, oh man, like if we could have gone back.
Why did we kill Lynn Shay already? Why did we do that?
Exactly.
Because they didn't know what they had. They didn't even know if they were going to get a sequel. Now they're 5 movies in, and they just did them in the wrong order. But it's still good.
It's still good. Again, this one right now is my favorite of the 3.
I like this one. I like this demon. I like the footprints it leaves and that everybody can see them. And it's fucking weird when they just start going up the walls and shit. You're like, man.
That scene too, like where she's freaking out in her room. She's hearing the dad comes in. He can see the ceiling cracking. You know, so it's not her imagination as some of these other movies would show you. It's like, and then everything is normal, right? Like, that's what you expected. No, the dad's like, what the hell's going up there? And then he goes up there with the super.
And they both see the
footprints.
They both see it. And the super's like, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Like, what do you want me to say? I don't know what this is.
So I like that because at that point, even though the dad still thought there was something not right with her, there was something else there. Like he can't deny it, because in a lot of these movies, the dad's gonna be like, "Oh, it's a dream. You need some sleep. I'm gonna drug your thing so you can get some rest. All this stuff." I don't think he was 100. He wasn't. He didn't jump to it right away, but I don't think he was dismissive of it because he
Well,
saw some evidence.
it's also trying to squeeze a lot out of Dermot Mulroney's fucking characterization of this father figure in a very short amount of time. He doesn't get a lot of screen time as the dad. He's only in there popping in and out. So, but you have to get a lot from him about him being in, he's grieving because his wife just died. He's putting a lot of pressure on his daughter and this and that. And he's constantly yelling. I don't think that they play the grieving father part very well, but I do like that it doesn't take very much for him to just be on board with shit. He's not trying to fight it the whole time. He just kind of is like, okay, something's fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Let's figure this out. And I do like that we move along. It's just not a very good representation of the grieving father archetype. It's not done very well.
I get that. And you're right. They have to go through it really quickly. And I mean, we didn't talk about it why, but like that scene where she gets hit by the car is messed up.
I didn't expect that. I didn't see that coming at all.
That was a jump scare that I was just like, oh shit! Like, oh,
she got fucking rocked by that car, and it leads to her being put into a wheelchair. Both her legs are broken, and that leads to that you get that more of that feeling of helplessness because she can't move herself around effectively. She's even more defenseless now.
And it does a great job in telling the story of why this spirit, this demon, is having more control over her, right? Because of this accident that left her dead for a moment, because we hear her, we hear her heart stop, we hear her flatline. Part of her soul is with this demon. And then you get the creepy visuals where she's in the further and you see that half her with no hands and legs and no face crawling around as the puppet to the man who can't breathe. And I'm like, this is really good stuff.
There's good parts. I'm not a big fan of the further. I hate the lantern fucking holding in the 10 minutes of every Conjuring movie that we have to see Patrick Wilson with a fucking lantern in his face.
But that's what gets the demons. It's just like another movie we're going to talk about down the road. It's all the light, the little lantern, and all this shit. That's what draws the demons.
I guess, which means I'd be screwed right now with my laptop. But I'm not a big fan of the further, but in this movie, in this one in particular, the first one they did a really good job. The second one, not so much. But here, they have that creepy visual. The guy walking around with her on a leash with no hands and no face. And every time you see her, there's a little bit more of her, like that is a very cool visual. Yeah. So,
and I mean, at first I wasn't sure if that was her. I was like, what is that being? It looks like her. And then like Elise,
he was wearing the same clothes. That's what got me.
It was, but I was just like, is it supposed to be mimicking? Is it supposed to be that? But I like that part of her soul, because she died and came back, is with this demon. I was like, wow, that is a really good way to tell that.
And I like, it gives me a little bit of Evil Dead vibes here in this one when the demon kind of does take possession and starts fucking people up. It does. I do feel like it has some more of those Evil Dead roots kind of tied in. They're trying to get
when she's breaking the cast off her legs, and then she starts walk on the broken legs, and it was like, oh.
See, that's a great scene. In any other movie, that would be like a highlight scene.
And also here,
that's a great here.
Here, this is Specs and Tucker's first foray. They were YouTube ghost hunters. Going and abandoning things, taping every little spooky sound, but they've never really been involved in anything like this. And you could like their terror on their face when they're like, "What the hell?"
Seems weird. It seems like there's so many ghosts out there that would just be like, "Hey, look, 2 more. Let's go fuck with that." I don't know.
But that's the thing. The ghosts they're attacking people who have grief. That's what you see in this series, right? It's about grief, and it's about people who have these powers. We find out later about Patrick Wilson's grief. We find, there's so everyone's got something that is feeding these entities.
I do
That's
like
why
that.
like Specs and Tucker, like they don't have the grief. They're just hanging out.
I like that you can like fucking like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You can like phone a friend in the further, and like they conjure up the mom to help. that's pretty cool. Like they, here we are at the end, and I hate how we vanquish the demon. How does she vanquish the demon? She sits up and she pulls his mask off, and the demon goes rah and falls away, and she's all better.
Dust, right?
She's all better, and all right, boys, we should go into business together. And while I love that whole ending, all them kind of figuring it out and getting together, the fact that it just comes so, it's like the ending is like this whole movie, and there's like 2 minutes, and then everything, it's just over. Like,
yep.
They literally walk out the door, and you see the fucking Dermot Mulroney and his daughter hugging and smiling in the window as it pans down to see them talking about their future. Like, it is after school special level bullshit. And it's a terrible way to kill the bad guy. I hate, like, I know that they're trying to say something like, all it takes is one little thing. And I guess, but I didn't like how we had to, how we killed the Black Bride by beating his mom up with a rocking horse. And I don't like how this one dies by pulling its breathing mask off. I think it's not good. I guess you could say the same. Maybe Christopher Nolan ripped this movie off when he made The Dark Knight Rises. I'm not sure which one came out first, but it's kind of how Christian Bale beat up Bane. He took the little pipes off, and then he beat up Bane. Bane's like, oh.
I mean, it's true. It's exactly true. So, all right. Well, that's it for Insidious Chapter 3. Because after this, they start actually getting subtitles. So this is Lil.
And this is Steve. And until tomorrow night, everybody, keep it creepy.